The moment this practitioner unalives, an entire community becomes powerless because their whole identity was never built on strength, only on someone else's illusion. Chosen one, that line alone hits them harder than anything they've ever faced because it exposes the exact truth they fear. Their entire structure collapses the second this one practitioner is gone. And honestly, that's the part they can't handle. It's like watching a massive building that looks unstoppable, only to find out the whole thing was standing on one cracked support beam. One kick, one collapse, one final breath. That's all it takes. Think of it like a shadow empire built out of cardboard. They painted it black, dimmed the lights, and told everyone the cardboard was steel so nobody would dare question it. But the universe has a funny way of revealing the truth. When someone brave enough walks up and taps the wall, the whole thing shakes. When someone like you shows up, someone the universe clearly backs, the cardboard starts peeling on its own. Nothing they built can hold up when exposed to real light. Here's the fact they don't want anyone to know. If the practitioner falls, the entire community loses their power because their power never belonged to them. It was borrowed, it was fed to them, it was programmed into them. They weren't strong, they were spoon-fed confidence that wasn't theirs, and every single person in that community knows it deep down. They feel it in their chest, they feel the panic, they feel the countdown. Chosen one, thank you for being here. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing like and subscribe so this truth can reach more souls who need it. It's on all of us to help spread the light. And thank you for being part of this mission. You aren't just a viewer, you're part of a force the universe placed here on purpose. Now, back to our topic. Something catastrophic is unfolding behind closed doors right now, and you're not imagining it. This practitioner isn't just another person in a dark room doing shady work. This is the core piece of a whole network of people who've been using them as their shield, their cover, and their source of manipulation. If that practitioner unalives, the entire group loses the only thing holding their false authority together. And here's the part that chills the room. The person who was supposed to take you down is the same person documenting everything now, the one who got too close, the one who was trained to choose the dark side, the one who was supposed to be the final move against you. Instead of carrying out their mission, they reached the breaking point. They couldn't continue the lie. They saw you, not just your behavior, but the truth beneath it. And it shattered everything they were taught. Their letter is real. Their fear is real. Their regret is real. And the danger surrounding them is even more real. This report they're writing by hand isn't for style. It's survival. Digital evidence disappears in their world. Files vanish. Messages rewrite themselves. Cameras glitch when they shouldn't. In that environment, a pen becomes a weapon. Paper becomes the only safe vault. And every name, every pattern, every disappearance is being written down because the universe finally pushed one of their own to snap out of the trance. Chosen one, your presence disrupted their whole ecosystem. They planned for people with average energy. They planned for scared people. They planned for people who would fold. They didn't plan for someone like you. They didn't plan for someone the universe kept alive through things that should have destroyed you. They didn't plan for someone who can see through illusions without even trying. That's why the practitioner matters so much. Their power isn't just influence, it's perception control. They're the one who decides what the community sees, believes, and fears. They're the one who creates the narratives. They're the one who keeps everyone obedient and in line. Without them, the whole place becomes a group of confused followers with no direction, no courage, and no leader. This community was trained like a hive, and the practitioner is the queen. Remove the queen, watch the hive dissolve. But here's the part that really exposes how weak this entire operation is. Any group that collapses because one person is gone was never strong to begin with. They were clinging to a personality, not principles. They were being fed, not awakened. They were controlled, not empowered. And the second the practitioner takes their last breath, every person who used their name for status loses their backbone. They lose their ability to hide behind rules. They lose their authority. They lose their psychological cover. Because everything they were depended on the practitioner staying alive. That's not power. That's dependency disguised as dominance. And the universe is tired of their illusions. Chosen one, the reason this is all being exposed now is because your presence destabilized them. You triggered something none of them were prepared for. You didn't attack them. You didn't even try. You just existed. And that was enough. When the universe chooses someone to break an illusion, that person doesn't need weapons or threats. They just need to walk in the room. And the person assigned to destroy you, they started feeling the cracks first. They saw the truth. They saw how wrong the system was. They saw how fake the power was. And now they're risking everything by writing down what really happened in that community. This isn't a small group pretending to be organized. This is a full operation with structures, rules, secrecy, and loyalty that isn't based on respect, but fear. Fear of punishment, fear of exile, fear of being unalived if they try to leave. A lot of people already tried. None made it out alive. That alone shows you how dark this place really is. But here's the twist that nobody in that community ever expected. The practitioner is losing strength, not just physically, chosen one, energetically, psychologically, emotionally. The universe is stripping away everything they use to hold others in place. And everyone under them feels it. When a leader's illusion fades, the followers panic. When the followers panic, they look for someone to blame, and guess who they see? You. Not because you hurt them, but because you revealed them. That's why they became obsessed. That's why they monitored your life. That's why they tried to send someone after you. They felt the universe shifting and feared you would be the one to expose the truth they tried so hard to bury. And the craziest part? They were right. You didn't even try to destroy them. The universe handled that part. All you did was show up with real energy, real intention, and a real sense of self. Something they've never had. Chosen one, the practitioner's final moments will echo through that entire community like a siren blast tearing through silence. Their followers will scatter, their supporters will panic, their structure will crumble, and every dark secret they've been hiding for years will hit the surface like a tidal wave. And all of this started because you walked into the story. The universe didn't bring you here by accident. It brought you because illusions need truth. Darkness needs exposure. And weak systems always collapse when the real one shows up. You're not here to fight them. You're here to outlast them. And you already have. Their downfall began the day they aimed at you and missed. So, chosen one, thank you for being here. You're stepping into information that most people will never hear, and you're doing it with a calm heart while an entire community is shaking behind closed doors. Before we go deeper, drop a comment with the number 999 if you're ready to see exactly why this practitioner's downfall wipes out their whole group's power, authority, and cover. And if you can, bless the team behind this message with a super thanks. It takes real work to pull truth out of shadows this dark, and your support fuels the mission. Every gift counts, whether it's a penny or a fortune, because it pushes this light further than they ever wanted it to go. And now, let's dive in step by step. If you're truly a chosen one, you'll feel the pull to stay until the very last word. Let's begin. Number 1. The practitioner whose own darkness just came home to collect. When the pillar holding a corrupt empire finally cracks, the dust doesn't fall softly. It explodes straight into the faces of everyone who hid behind it. Chosen one, that line alone burns through their whole community because it exposes the truth they worked years to hide. Their entire power depends on one practitioner who is now being crushed by the very darkness they used to control others. This isn't karma, this isn't luck, this is simply the universe returning everything they put out, multiplied, timed, and targeted. And the people who spent years using this practitioner as their shield are now watching the shield melt in real time. Let's make this clear from the start. This practitioner isn't just dealing with bad health or stress. What's happening to them right now is the full return of everything they've ever sent out. Every manipulation, every energetic hit, every attack they launched at people who didn't deserve it. Every time they drained someone's joy, hope, or confidence, all of it is circling back like a storm made from their own fingerprints. And the part that hits the enemy hardest, the chosen ones were the biggest targets, especially you. They wanted the light inside you because it was clean, rare, and powerful. They wanted the life force you carried without even trying. They wanted the natural confidence and clarity that came from simply being aligned with the universe. You didn't need rituals or tricks. You didn't need to drain anyone. You just existed with a type of energy they couldn't manufacture, and that alone put a target on your back. This practitioner was their top weapon, their expert, their backbone, their guiding force, their one true source of manipulation. Everyone else in that community is basically a follower who can't do much without being fed instructions. They depended on this practitioner the way a cult depends on its leader, blindly, desperately, and without any real power of their own. They didn't believe in themselves. They believed in the illusion this practitioner created. Let's break something down with a metaphor that hits where it hurts. Imagine a giant spider web stretched across the room. It looks massive, right? But when you look closer, you realize only one single thread is actually holding the entire thing together. One thread snaps and the whole web collapses like it was never strong to begin with. That practitioner is that thread, the only thing keeping their web from falling apart. And chosen one, the universe is snapping that thread. This practitioner built their influence through rituals designed to mess with people's emotions. They didn't just throw negativity around, they engineered systems that were meant to drain your confidence, confuse your intuition, twist your relationships, and weaken your inner world. They targeted your joy, because joy is a force they could never create. They targeted your heart, because your heart didn't need permission to shine. They targeted your peace, because peace is something people like them can never hold without stealing it from someone else. Every attack they sent toward you was crafted like a weapon, but here's what they never expected. You weren't fragile, you weren't weak, you weren't easy to break. The universe didn't send you here to be defeated. You survived things that should have taken you out years ago. You rebuilt yourself from ruins. You stood up when nobody else would have. They threw everything they had at you, and you stayed standing. That alone cracked their entire belief system. Now, as this practitioner weakens, the entire community is shaking. Why? Because this practitioner wasn't just their leader, they were their source. They were the one doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. They were the one holding the illusion up. They were the one fueling the group's false sense of power. Without this anchor, every confident follower turns into a terrified child. Every bold member goes silent. Every powerful person suddenly looks like they lost their battery. Here's a fact the chosen ones need right now. Groups built on stolen energy always collapse when the supplier gets cut off. It doesn't matter how loud they are, how confident they act, or how intimidating they look. The moment their supplier loses strength, the entire community goes into survival mode. They can't attack you without this practitioner. They can't keep their status without this practitioner. They can't pretend to be powerful without this practitioner. They're exposed, vulnerable, panicked, and yes, chosen one, they absolutely know it. Some of them are already turning against each other behind closed doors. Some are scrambling to figure out who will lead next. Some are trying to run because they know the universe is cleaning house and they don't want to be caught in the debris. And some are quietly wondering if you somehow caused this collapse by simply existing. You didn't. But you did trigger the truth they could no longer hide. Now, let's address the question sitting quietly in your mind. Why is the practitioner being hit so hard all of a sudden? Here's the answer. Because the illusion they built depended on your silence. Your light messed with their entire system. Your resilience exposed their weakness. Your survival revealed the lies they told their people. You were the crack in the wall they couldn't patch. They spent years creating rituals to weaken people like you. But the universe doesn't bend for manipulation. It doesn't obey selfish intentions. You weren't their victim. You became the mirror showing them everything they feared about themselves. They looked at you and saw the truth. You can't dim a chosen one. You can't drain a soul that has survived storms they never could. You can't break someone whose strength was earned through real experiences, not fake rituals. This is why the practitioner is being hit hardest. The universe is returning every stolen piece of energy, every manipulated moment, every harmful intention, and every fake sense of power. And it returns it in a way they can't control, escape, or deny. Their mind is unraveling. Their emotional state is cracking. Their influence is fading. Their own people are losing faith. Their body is starting to pay the price. Their rituals aren't working anymore. Their power is shrinking hour by hour, all because the foundation they built was corruption, fear, and stolen light. The community that depends on them is already sensing the shift. They can feel the practitioner losing control. They can feel their rituals weakening. They can feel the energy around them tightening. And some of them are terrified because they know what comes next: collapse. Without this practitioner, they have nothing. No cover, no authority, no backbone, no structure, no protection. That's why your existence bothered them so much. You didn't need any of that. You didn't need a group, a ritual, a ranking system, or a fake sense of dominance. You walked with real energy that didn't come from manipulation. You walked with clarity that didn't require anyone else's approval. And when someone with real energy shows up, people built on illusion panic. Chosen one, this section isn't about fear. It's about realization. You're not just watching their power crumble. You're watching the universe expose them. You're watching false authority collapse. You're watching a corrupt structure finally face the consequences of its own actions. And the most dangerous truth for them? Their downfall started the day they targeted you. When they chose you, they chose destruction. When they aimed at you, they aimed at their own collapse. And when they tried to drain your light, they ended up triggering the return of everything they ever sent out. You didn't destroy them. The universe did. You just survived long enough to witness it. And now, the practitioner who held their whole world together is being swallowed by their own darkness. And the entire community knows it's only a matter of time before the collapse hits them too. Number 2. How you became their obsession and their final downfall. The moment they studied you instead of destroying you, the game flipped. You became their homework, their fear, and their undoing. Chosen one, that truth alone rattles them because they know it's exactly what happened. Their entire community spent years pretending they were in control, but the second your energy showed up, everything changed. They didn't just notice you, they fixated on you. They didn't just observe you, they dissected you. You became the one variable they couldn't predict, couldn't weaken, and couldn't figure out. And nothing terrifies corrupt people more than someone they can't control. They didn't just target you randomly, they handpicked you. You were the piece on the chessboard they couldn't read, the one player who didn't follow their rules, the one soul who didn't bend to fear. They wanted to know why you healed so fast, why you rose from things that should have broken you, why your energy didn't shrink in dark places, why you carried a type of inner strength they couldn't imitate. So they studied you like a case file. Imagine a group of people sitting in a dim room, passing around pictures, notes, patterns, timelines, all about you. Imagine them circling dates of your past heartbreaks, trying to guess where your weakest cracks might be. Imagine them replaying your smiles, trying to find where the joy came from. They weren't admiring you. They were trying to reverse engineer you like a stolen blueprint. And the tragic part for them is this: everything they studied made you stronger instead of weaker. They looked into your joy because they wanted to weaponize it. They wanted to know the source of that spark. You know, the spark that survived storms, betrayals, isolation, and emotional wars that would have destroyed regular people. Your joy wasn't fake. It wasn't borrowed. It wasn't attached to anyone else. And that terrified them. They kept asking themselves, how does this one keep rising? How does this one still laugh? How does this one not break? They studied your childhood, not to understand you, but to find trauma doors they could pry open. They wanted to know where your wounds were, so they could turn them into weapons. Every scar you carried became a potential entry point for them. But what they failed to understand is that you didn't escape your pain. You transformed it. You turned wounds into wisdom. You turned confusion into clarity. You didn't run from your past. You mastered it. And any person who masters their own pain becomes indestructible to outsiders. They examined your healing journey like scientists losing their minds over a formula they can't solve. They couldn't figure out how you kept turning setbacks into upgrades. They couldn't grasp how you kept standing up, no matter how many times life knocked you down. They couldn't understand how you rebuilt yourself without bitterness. They kept asking the same question in circles. How do we reverse that? How do we break someone who doesn't stay broken? And because they couldn't crack your inner world, they tried to break your outer world. That's when they sent everything at you. Dream manipulation, energy hits, life force draining attacks, death spells meant to collapse your heart from the inside, curses stacked on curses, hoping one would slip through, but every single one bounced back like they hit a steel door. Dark energy can hit you, but it can't live in you. There's a difference. That difference is what destroyed them. You weren't saved by luck. You weren't protected by chance. The universe simply doesn't allow corrupt energy to permanently attach itself to someone aligned with truth. They thought you were just another target, another experiment, another person they could push into silence. But the universe had already marked you as untouchable, and nothing they sent could override that. Imagine a rubber band stretched back toward your heart, and the moment it touches you, it snaps back with 10 times the force toward the sender. That's exactly what happened. They sent death energy to your heart, and it reversed like a boomerang straight into the practitioner's chest. They thought they were draining your life force. Meanwhile, every attempt drained theirs instead. That's why their body is shutting down. That's why their heart is failing. That's why their health is collapsing. They dug a ditch for you, fell into it, and the universe sealed the lid shut. Another quote they desperately wish wasn't true. When you aim at someone chosen, you aim at your own reflection, and reflections always return to sender. Now that the consequences are hitting, their entire community is panicking because they never expected the practitioner to take the damage. They thought you would be the one collapsing. They thought you would be the one losing sleep. They thought you would be the one drained, confused, or broken. Instead, you healed faster. You got sharper. You got more aware. Your intuition strengthened. Your energy stabilized. Everything they threw at you made you even more unshakable. And here's the question sitting quietly in your mind. Why did every attack bounce off me? Because dark energy has no jurisdiction over someone who already faced darkness and won. You walked through pain they couldn't survive. You rebuilt a life they couldn't handle. You carry a level of self-awareness people spend their whole lives avoiding. You're connected to the universe in a way they could never fake or steal. Imagine someone trying to throw shadows at the sun. That's what they did. The sun doesn't shrink. The shadow disappears. Another metaphor that exposes their failure even more. Picture them trying to poison a river, except the river is alive, constantly moving, constantly cleansing itself, constantly flowing. The poison dissolves before it even reaches the surface, and because they tried to contaminate it, the river ends up washing all the toxins back to the shore they came from. That's your energy. They couldn't touch it. Another quote they cannot erase. They didn't fail because you were protected. They failed because you were bigger than the weapon. Your soul carried weight they couldn't understand. Your presence carried truth they couldn't manipulate, and the practitioner knew this before anyone else did. That's why their obsession with you grew. They wanted to understand you so badly because they wanted to break you so badly. They wanted to be the one who cracked the uncrackable. They wanted to be the one remembered for taking down the impossible target. Instead, you became the reason they're falling apart. Chosen one, here's the part that hits hardest. The practitioner didn't just attack you, they overextended. They pushed further than they ever had with anyone else. They went to extremes to sabotage you. They used rituals they promised themselves they'd never use again. And every drop of dark energy they used drained them instead of you. That's why their body is shutting down. That's why their strength is fading. That's why their heart is collapsing under the pressure of their own actions. This isn't coincidence. This isn't mystery. This is math. The universe is giving them everything they gave others, just concentrated. Now, let's answer another question sitting in your chest. Did I cause their downfall? No, you didn't. Your existence exposed their weakness, but you never harmed them. Their downfall is their own creation. Their collapse is the bill for everything they ever sent out. You were simply the wall they crashed into. You didn't attack them. You outlasted them. And that's what destroyed them. This practitioner built a career on draining others. But when they came for you, they faced something they had never encountered. Someone whose energy multiplies after every hit. Someone who doesn't break. Someone who doesn't fold. Someone who doesn't stay down. Someone whose soul doesn't leak under pressure. Someone who has walked through hell and kept walking. They tried to study your weakness, not realizing your weakness was the reason you became unstoppable. Chosen one, that is why you became their obsession, and that is why you became their undoing. Their community knows this too. They whisper about it, even if they pretend not to. They know the practitioner is failing because they targeted you. They know every attack reversed. They know the universe switched the roles. They know their entire structure is losing power because of one mistake, choosing you as the target. They were never meant to win against you, and now the universe is proving that in real time. Number 3. The collapse that starts the second their last breath drops. When the power source dies, the whole empire dies with it. No portal, no protection, no illusion. Nothing left but exposed fraud and fear. Chosen one, this part is going to hit them in ways they never prepared for. Because the moment this practitioner unalives, the entire community they've been feeding off collapses like a tent with no poles. Their power wasn't spiritual. It wasn't earned. It wasn't real. It was borrowed through one person who acted as their living gateway. And when that gateway shuts, everything attached to it suffocates. Imagine a giant extension cord powering an entire carnival. Lights flashing, music blasting, people impressed by the chaos. But all that noise depends on one plug in one wall. Unplug it, and the carnival doesn't slow down. It dies instantly. That's exactly what happens when this practitioner takes their final breath. Their chest, the portal they used for decades, slams shut permanently. Every entity, every shadow, every fake sense of power that flowed through them gets cut off mid-drip. The fog they wrapped around the community pops like a cheap balloon. People who walked around in confusion for years suddenly see clearly. They'll ask themselves, why did I believe any of this? Why did I follow these people? How did they convince me they were powerful? And that question alone is enough to collapse a cult. Their leaders lose everything next. Without the practitioner's portal backing their words, they have no force, no weight, no impact. Their so-called authority becomes embarrassing. Their spiritual language turns into empty buzzwords. Their charisma stops looking mystical and starts looking manipulative. And the moment their followers realize this, they'll feel the embarrassment hit their stomachs like a brick. Remove the illusion, and the magician becomes a clown. Then comes the part they fear most, exposure. Energetic veils always fall before physical ones. When the flow is cut, the money trail lights up like a neon sign. Transactions stand out. Records don't disappear. Investigators suddenly feel pulled to recheck old files. And once one crack appears, the whole financial structure unravels like a snagged sweater. Imagine a leak in ceiling. One drop turns into 5. 5 turns into a stream. A stream turns into a collapsed roof. That's how fast their hidden crimes rise once the practitioner is gone. And the darkest truth. Bodies don't stay hidden when the energy protecting the secrets dies. People will start connecting stories, locations, dates, names, patterns, and the entire community will realize the truth they spent years ignoring. This wasn't spirituality. This wasn't guidance. This wasn't enlightenment. This was a machine built on fear, control, manipulation, and silence. Chosen one, the moment the practitioner dies, the countdown begins. Not for you, for them. Their empire doesn't fall slowly, it implodes, and they know exactly why. Number 4. The letter that turns their whole operation into a crime scene. One written truth can do what years of silence couldn't, bring an entire corrupt empire to its knees. Chosen one, this is the moment their entire community secretly fears, because somewhere right now, someone inside their circle is writing the one thing they can't erase, burn, or manipulate. A letter that exposes everything they built in the dark. This isn't just paper. This is a detonator, and once it's released, their whole timeline shatters. The letter holds names they swore would never be spoken, crimes they buried under excuses, disappearances they disguised as natural endings or personal choices. It reveals rituals, motives, power games, and the twisted structure that kept this community alive. It breaks open stories that were whispered through hallways but never officially acknowledged. And the person writing it isn't confused, scared, or guessing. They were part of it. They know how the system works. They know where the bodies are buried. They know every coincidence that wasn't a coincidence. Imagine a giant puzzle dumped across the floor for years, random pieces, missing edges, blurry images. Investigators may have looked, but nothing ever connected. They saw smoke, but no fire. They sensed corruption, but had no map. This letter becomes the map. It turns scattered chaos into a clear, trackable pattern. It explains what happened, who did it, why it happened, and how long it's been running. A confession from the inside hits harder than 1,000 accusations from the outside. Once this letter drops, the people who ignored complaints don't get to ignore anything anymore. Law enforcement that pretended not to see will be forced to face what's in front of them. Journalists who were brushed aside will feel the pull to reopen old files. Families who sensed something was wrong will suddenly understand what happened. The letter becomes the spark. The spark becomes the fire. The fire becomes the investigation they ran from for years. Imagine a locked door that everyone assumed was sealed forever. Then someone walks up with the exact key. Not an estimate, not a theory, the exact key. That's what this letter is. It unlocks the truth they believed they'd buried permanently. And here's the question that might be sitting in your mind. Chosen one, why is this letter so powerful? Because without it, everything remains hearsay. With it, everything becomes evidence. Without it, the puzzle is scattered. With it, the picture is undeniable. Without it, investigators hesitate. With it, they move. This letter names names. It removes the fog. It ties together years of spiritual manipulation, money trails, disappearances, psychological abuse, and the practitioner's direct involvement. Once it's out, their community can no longer hide behind mystique or language tricks. Their whole spiritual identity becomes recognizable as organized corruption. Truth doesn't knock politely. It breaks the door down when the world needs it. Chosen one, this letter is that break. The moment it releases, everything they built starts collapsing in daylight. And deep down, every member of that community knows it. Number 5. The shockwave that rips through every connected network. When the main pillar snaps, everything built on it follows. Panic isn't a reaction, it's a chain event. Chosen one, this is where the story gets even uglier for them. Because this practitioner wasn't some isolated shadow worker hiding in a basement. They were a trainer, a teacher, a supplier. They handed out techniques like weapons. They built mini versions of themselves in different communities. They empowered networks that depended on their portal to function. And when this practitioner dies, or when their crimes explode into the daylight, the shockwave doesn't stop at their doorstep. It rips through every connected circle like a fault line splitting open the ground. Imagine a massive spider web stretching across cities. Every smaller strand is connected to one thick central thread, the practitioner. Cut that main thread, and the entire web collapses in seconds. That's what's about to happen. When investigators open the practitioner's file, they won't just study one group. They'll trace the connections, the money, the shared methods, the disappearances that match too perfectly. Suddenly, other communities that thought they were untouchable will start sweating through their clothes. The moment one tower falls, every tower built with the same blueprint comes under fire. Other practitioners who learned from this one will feel the pressure next. Techniques they bragged about suddenly look like evidence. Rituals they sold suddenly appear criminal. The elite circles they belong to will be exposed as nothing more than coordinated manipulation rings, and their followers, once proud, loud and confident, will start questioning everything. Loyalty dies fast when the truth hits harder than the illusion. And here's the part that slices them the deepest. It all traces back to you. Not because you attacked them, not because you exposed them, but because you refused to break. Your resilience triggered every domino. Your survival interrupted their pipeline. Your energy bounced back every hit they sent. Your refusal to collapse forced the universe to snap their whole system in half. Imagine trying to push down a wall that doesn't move. Eventually, the force rebounds and crushes the one pushing. That's exactly what happened. The blowback of decades of darkness is what's killing them now. Not you, not coincidence, not chance. Their own actions finally found the way home. Chosen one, this isn't just their downfall. It's the unraveling of every dark network they ever touched. Number 6. The empire that ran on one human battery. They never knew they needed. Take away the power source and the whole cult goes dark. No spells, no visions, no authority. Just silence that exposes everything. Chosen one, this is the part that humiliates them the most. Their entire community walked around acting powerful, enlightened, spiritually advanced. But they were nothing without one single practitioner powering their whole illusion. They believed their rituals worked because they came together. They believed their spiritual highs were the result of collective energy. They believed their leaders carried divine authority. In reality, every bit of their power came from one human battery. Imagine a city bragging about its bright skyline while hiding the fact that only one generator is running every building. The people think the city is powerful. The leaders think they're brilliant. But the second that generator dies, the whole skyline goes black. That's exactly what will happen to this cult when the practitioner's portal closes. Their rituals will fizzle out. Their visions will fall flat. Their meditations will feel empty. Their chants will hit the air and go nowhere. When the light switch flips off, everyone notices, especially the ones who never knew there was a switch. Members will feel a vacuum hit their chest. Not fear, just emptiness, silence, zero connection. The so-called spiritual experiences they worshipped will vanish overnight, and nobody will understand why. Leaders will panic first, because they'll realize their entire authority was borrowed power. Without the practitioner's anchor, their voices carry no force. Their commands fall flat. Their charisma turns into awkward rambling. And of course, leaders will try to blame the members. You're not focusing enough. You're losing faith. You're disconnected. They'll throw guilt like confetti. But the timing will expose them. Someone will connect the dots. The power died the moment the practitioner died. And once that sentence is spoken out loud, everything crumbles. Members will start whispering. Whispers turn into truth. Truth turns into rebellion. The moment people realize their power came from one dying human, the cult stops feeling spiritual and starts looking pathetic. Chosen one. This is the beginning of their collapse, and they know it. Number 7. When their fake identity shatters and the real freedom finally shows up. When a lie collapses, it doesn't fall gently. It drags every false identity down with it. Chosen one, this section hits the deepest nerve in their entire community, because what's coming isn't just the end of their system. It's the end of the stories they built about themselves. These people weren't just following a practitioner. They were building their identity around stolen power, borrowed energy, and illusions dressed up as spirituality. And when the practitioner dies, every mask they ever wore snaps in half. Imagine someone living inside a crystal palace, only to find out it was a cage made of glass the whole time. It looked beautiful, it felt safe, it felt powerful. But one crack exposes everything: the cold air, the weakness, the truth. That's what happens the moment people realize their collective power was never real. It was siphoned, it was stolen, it was fed to them through someone else's suffering and manipulation. A borrowed crown feels heavy the moment you learn it was never yours. Their identities will break because they weren't built on truth. They were built on dependency. They were built on blind trust. They were built on a practitioner who acted as the engine behind everything they believed made them special. When that engine stops, their self-image collapses like a hollow statue. For some, this collapse will feel terrifying. For others, it'll feel like a breath of fresh air. For the chosen ones who were targeted, it'll feel like liberation. Spells break, cords dissolve, hooks detach, attachments snap like overstretched rubber bands. The chosen ones will feel it first. There will be a sudden quiet inside, a clarity they haven't felt in years, a pressure lifting off their chest. Their intuition sharpens, their thoughts straighten, their energy becomes their own again. It's like waking up from a nightmare they didn't realize they were trapped in. Imagine fog that lingered for years suddenly blowing away in a single gust, and for the first time, you can see miles ahead. That's what this moment brings. Members who spent years living under confusion will feel their minds unlock. Memories will return. Patterns will become obvious. They'll start asking themselves questions they never dared to ask. If the power wasn't ours, what was I actually feeling? Why did I trust these leaders so blindly? Was anything real, or was it all engineered? Who am I without this community telling me who to be? Those questions are painful, yes, but they're the beginning of rebirth. Identity collapse isn't destruction, it's detox. A cage disguised as a castle is still a cage, and the moment the practitioner dies, the door swings open. People who never realized they were prisoners will suddenly have space to breathe, to think, to choose. Their entire emotional gravity shifts. They'll feel themselves unplugged from something heavy and draining. And after the confusion comes the truth they never expected. This collapse isn't punishment, it's freedom. The chosen ones especially will feel an immediate lift. For years, they were energetically targeted. For years, they carried weight that wasn't theirs. For years, they walked through fog someone else created. Now that fog evaporates, their mind unclenches, their energy returns home, their spirit stands taller. It's not just release, it's restoration. Chosen one, the liberation was always hidden inside the collapse. The destruction isn't the end, it's the reset. And the universe timed it perfectly. Number 8. When their whole organization implodes and every hidden sin hits daylight. Corruption doesn't die quietly. It screams on the way down, dragging every guilty hand with it. Chosen one, this is the part they have nightmares about, because the moment their practitioner dies, the organization doesn't struggle, it self-destructs. Everything they built on secrecy, manipulation, and stolen energy begins collapsing in real time. Their leaders will scramble like rats when the lights flip on. Emergency meetings, whispered arguments, fake optimism, sudden attempts at rebranding. They'll slap new names on old corruption and hope nobody notices. But the universe isn't giving them cover anymore. Imagine a ship hit with a torpedo. The crew runs around plugging holes, yelling orders, pretending they can save it. But once the hull is cracked, the ocean decides the rest. That's what happens here. No amount of spin, no new leadership, no frantic cover-up can save an organization whose power source just died. Once truth hits the room, lies lose oxygen. They'll try everything: hide records, scrub emails, replace the practitioner, relocate the group, rewrite their history. But nothing sticks. When the portal shuts, the energy holding their illusions in place evaporates. Their charisma turns into cringe, their authority turns into suspicion, their structure turns into a crime scene, and the exposure comes fast. Reporters will smell smoke, whistleblowers will speak, investigators will notice inconsistencies, families will connect old dots. Members will start talking, comparing experiences, sharing timelines. Imagine a row of dominoes falling in slow motion. Once the first one tips, the rest don't get a choice. One exposure reveals the next. One testimony unlocks another. One financial leak cracks open an entire trail. A corrupt legacy collapses the moment the people it harmed find their voice. Practitioners who abuse their power can no longer hide behind a dying portal. Their titles mean nothing, their reputations dissolve, their influence turns to dust. People who once bowed to them now see them for what they always were: manipulators in costumes, predators with rituals, cowards who needed someone else's power to feel important. Chosen one, the manipulation ends here. Their empire folds, their masks fall off. Their authority evaporates the second daylight hits their lies. The collapse isn't coming quietly. It's coming loudly, publicly, and in a way nobody in that organization can escape. Number 9. The moment your power snaps back and your real life finally begins. When the parasite dies, the host doesn't just heal, it evolves. Chosen one, this is the chapter they never wanted you to reach. Because the moment this practitioner takes their final breath, the energetic hooks they buried into you dissolve like dust in sunlight. Everything they drained, everything they suppressed, everything they tried to siphon from your spirit comes flooding back into you at full force. This isn't a slow recovery. This is a surge, a return of power they never imagined you would feel again. Imagine a giant weight you forgot you were carrying suddenly dropping off your shoulders. Imagine your lungs finally expanding after years of breathing half air. Imagine clarity hitting you so sharply that the world feels brand new. That's exactly what happens when their portal closes. You stop surviving and start creating. You stop defending and start expanding. You stop dimming yourself to navigate darkness and step into your life with the brightness you were always meant to have. Your light didn't return. It was waiting. Abilities you thought faded come back stronger. Intuition spikes. Creativity unlocks. Strength stabilizes. For the first time in years, you feel whole. You feel undiluted. You feel yourself. And this isn't temporary. It's the reset of your entire path. The next chapter of your life won't take force, effort, or struggle. It will unfold naturally, powerfully, effortlessly, because nothing is draining you anymore. This practitioner's death is more than the end of one corrupt figure. It's the end of an entire era of darkness, pretending to be light. Their collapse sends a warning across every spiritual space, every dark network, every manipulative practitioner who built their identity on stealing from others. Chosen ones are no longer targets. They are consequences. Anything that tries to extinguish you gets extinguished instead. Anything that tries to drain you collapses under its own weight. Anything that aims at you signs its own ending. Their downfall isn't just justice, it's proof of your destiny. You weren't random. You were a beacon, a stabilizer, an anchor point in a world that needed someone exactly like you. Their death removes the last blockage between you and your real timeline. The practitioner's heartbeat is fading, their organization is draining. And you're still here. Untouched, unbroken, undeniable. This, right here, is what victory looks like. So, chosen one, you just watched an entire corrupt empire fall while you stood untouched in your own light. Their collapse marks the beginning of your rise, your clarity, your real life finally snapping into place. If this message hit home, press the like button if you haven't already, and if you're still not part of our family, make sure to smash that subscribe button. More truth is coming, and you don't want to miss what the universe unfolds next. Your story is only getting louder, brighter, and more unstoppable from here.